the good news for Disney and Star Wars simply will not end. Not only is Gina Carano openly calling them out, not only is Amandla Stenberg out in the media reminding everyone that the Acolyte is coming to damage the Star Wars brand even further and soon, but now EA just cancelled a Star Wars game, and they're engaging in a new round of mass fightings to boot. And as we're about to see, that is related to the strength of the Star Wars brand. This comes to us from Deadline Hollywood, which writes, Electronic Arts, which makes such games as Madden NFL and Apex Legends, said today that it plans to lay off 5% of its employees and will discontinue work on several games. So it's not just Star Wars then, though you'd think such a big IP would be shielded. The announcement continues the ongoing downsizing in the gaming and tech space, a development that has seen thousands of jobs lost. And if we're honest, most of those thousands of jobs probably should never have existed in the first place. A big problem in the tech space is bloat, where you just have too many people employed, and while some of them are overworked, there are too many who spend their days updating their Facebook feeds, making TikTok videos, and just going out for lattes. Also, there's quite a few virtue signaling DEI hires that don't actually do anything. And so much bloat in any one industry is obviously not sustainable in the long run, which is a major part of the reason why not just EA, but the tech space as a whole is now doing all this downsizing. Case in point, Elon Musk fired like 80% of Twitter staff, and the company is better run now. Which only goes to show he fired the 80% that probably should never have been hired in the first place. But let's move on with the story. EA said the layoffs are part of a broader restructuring aimed at supporting strategic priorities and growth initiatives, according to a Tuesday Securities filing. EA said in that document that it also plans to reduce its office space footprint. That's code for what they're earning isn't enough to keep paying for their bloated staff costs, and with fewer employees, they don't need as much real estate to house them in, and they're not the only ones. Last year, EA sliced 800 employees, while Epic Games cut 830 jobs in September. In January, Tencent's Riot Games said it would lay off 11% of its workforce, and Microsoft said it would cull 1,900 jobs from its Activision Blizzard and Xbox gaming divisions. Sony said on Tuesday it would cut 8% of its global workforce, amounting to around 900 jobs. Back to EA. Along with the job cuts, CEO Andrew Wilson issued a company-wide letter informing staff of the publisher's restructuring. That means the sunsetting of some live service titles and ceasing the development of certain projects. And now we get to the important part as it pertains to Star Wars. In his letter, Wilson stated that EA is restructuring to become more streamlined in order to deliver deeper, more connected experiences for fans everywhere that build community, shape culture, and grow fandom. He said the company will be moving away from licensed IPs and shutting down certain titles to shift its development resources. One more time, because this was the important bit. EA is moving away from licensed IPs. We are also sunsetting games and moving away from the development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry, Wilson said in the letter. In other words, they do not believe Star Wars will be successful. This greater focus allows us to drive creativity, accelerate innovation, and double down on our biggest opportunities, including our owned IP, sports, and massive online communities, to deliver the entertainment players want today and tomorrow. Videogame's Chronicle reported Respawn's upcoming Star Wars first-person shooter is one title not moving forward. So let's move on over to Videogame Chronicle, where they write. EA Entertainment President Laura Meal has confirmed the cancellation of the Star Wars FPS, saying Respawn's unique ability to connect with players and create exceptional game experiences is unrivaled in entertainment. As we've looked at Respawn's portfolio over the last few months, what's clear is the games our players are most excited about are Jedi and Respawn's rich library of owned brands. Knowing this, we have decided to pivot away from early development on a Star Wars FPS action game to focus our efforts on new projects based on our owned brands while providing support for existing games. It's always hard to walk away from a project, and this decision is not a reflection of the team's talent, tenacity, or passion they have for the game. Giving fans the next installments of the iconic franchises they want is the definition of blockbuster storytelling and the right place to focus. So in other words, this Star Wars FPS game being cancelled is not a reflection on anything being wrong with the team. You know what that means? It means it's a reflection on the brand, especially when EA is cutting down licensed IPs. Why would they do such a thing? Well, obviously because there's no money in them, and there's two sides to that. First is the self-inflicted damage to the licensed brand itself. Look no further than Star Wars for a prime example of that. Once the biggest entertainment franchise in history, Star Wars today is but a shadow of its former self, and in terms of viewership and merchandise sales, it is by now just another random brand among many. The magic that once was is gone because Kathleen Kennedy killed it. That's the big issue with licensed IPs. If the rights holder burns them to the ground, they're not worth it for a company like EA. And companies like EA are the other side of the equation. They're not off the hook here either. That tech space bloat makes the games unnecessarily expensive. Predatory practices drive customers away. Plus, there's one more thing that destroys games well outside the scope of EA, namely DEI, ideopolitical messaging, and companies like Sweet Baby Inc. that enforce it. To mention one recent example, because of all of these factors, the Suicide Squad game is a massive loss for parent company Warner, and that is but one of many examples. For all of these reasons though, EA just cancelled their Star Wars FPS game, and I have no doubt it was the right call to make. Given the state of both the Star Wars brand as well as the gaming industry, I do not doubt that Star Wars FPS game would have lost a fortune had they proceeded with it. But the thing is, it shouldn't be like this in the first place, and that it is exclusively down to bad brand management in the likes of Lucasfilm, as well as bloat and predatory practices in the likes of EA. And lest we forget, adherence to the toxic DEI ideology and requirements across the board. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.